Home Grown Filmmakers. Today is Why Does My Film Look Bad? Part 2. So last week I released a video, Why Does My Film Look Bad?, with 2 things that you can watch out for to make your visuals look better, and I just wanted to continue with that. So today we're doing a couple more points. Just as a quick recap, last week we talked about unvaried angles and no movement or limited movement. Okay, so we're just going to jump in. The third reason your films look bad is no depth. Another side effect of the stage play mindset is shots that have no depth, like when you shoot a conversation up against a wall. It's just flat, empty, uninteresting. You're not sure what you're supposed to look at because it's all just kind of there. Remember that good camera work is about directing the audience to see what you want them to see, what's important to the story, or what's interesting. Adding depth to your shots separates your subject from everything else and allows the audience to focus on that. So there are 3 ways that you can add more depth to your shots. The first is focus. You can use focus to add more depth by using a shallow depth of field, which basically means have whatever you want the audience to look at in focus and everything else out of focus. A shot like this can look like this. All I did was take a few steps backward and then zoomed it in to match the earlier shot, but the actor is immediately separated and it's a much nicer looking shot. The mechanics behind depth of field and focus are a little bit more complicated than I wanted to get to in this video. So if you have a lot more questions about that, go ahead and Google it. There's a lot of information out there about how cameras work, how lenses work, and how to achieve depth of field in different situations. The basics are get your subject away from the background and have space behind them. The second way that you can add more depth to your shots is lighting. Lighting is used to the same effect, to separate your subject from the background. Put what you want the audience to look at in the light and make other things darker. It's hard to do a lot without expensive equipment when it comes to lighting, but there are ways to use natural light to your advantage. More on that in a second. The third way you can add more depth to your shots is with your setting. Why aren't they having a conversation up against the wall? Couldn't they have had it in the living room? Or in the car? Or in a forest? Your setting can be a big part of what makes your shot interesting, and the wall is the least interesting choice. So depth is something you actually want to consider when you're planning out your locations. You want areas with more space so that the camera and the actors have room to breathe. If you absolutely have to shoot a conversation up against the wall, at least stage your actors in a more interesting position so that there are more interesting shot choices. Use your setting to your advantage and avoid dead space images. So there you go. You can use focus, lighting, and setting to add more depth to your shots. Moving on. The fourth reason your films look bad is bad lighting. Lighting is another one of those things that most beginning filmmakers consider an afterthought. But bad lighting will kill your movie, and it's a main contributor to why your films look bad. It's hard to follow a story when the shots are too dark, have too much contrast with light and shadow, are overexposed, or too grainy. It's distracting from your story. So the question is, how to get better at lighting? This one honestly is tough to tackle as a beginning filmmaker with no money. But here are a few tips for what you can do. Use any and all natural lighting. Shoot outside, near windows, during the day, and don't use the normal everyday overhead house lighting. That stuff looks awful on camera. If you have a little money, invest in a bounce. The one we use is this 4-in-1 reflector, white bounce, blackout, diffuser. Point your subjects into the light and do not put it directly behind them. If the natural light is too strong and you're getting too much light and shadow, use the diffuser. You can buy $3 shower curtains from Walmart that work great for this as well. Do your best to work with the weather. Cloudy days are great because the sun is already naturally diffused. Snow works as a natural bounce to send light up to your subjects' faces. Bonus points if you shoot a scene at sunset. If you have to shoot at night, use flashlights and street lights and car lights and any light that makes sense for the scene. If you have a DSLR, take the time to research basic camera settings, ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. All 3 of those go into how your camera handles light and how to adjust it for different lighting situations. Basically, use what you have and be smart about it. It may take a little extra time and effort to think about and plan for, but your finished product will be 10 times better for it. That was all I had for you this week. I hope you learned something or you're inspired to go do more research. Next week, I'll be going into the final 2 points of why your films look bad. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. If you wanted me to talk more in depth about anything that I talked about today, go ahead and do that. I will make a video about just that thing. This was more of a broad overview sort of thing to help inspire you and give you ideas. I hope you guys are inspired and ready to go make some movies. I will see you next week. I'm Annie Pulling Sweat, and I'm a homegrown filmmaker. Thank you so much for watching.